Hey fam, welcome back to another episode of I'm Telling You.
Telling you.
As always, your faithful host, Philly D.
Mr. Gemini.
Yeah, and if you'd like to continue the conversation,
hit us up at I'm Telling You at directionsinmusic.org. That's IMTELLINYOU at directionsinmusic.org.
That was like so smooth.
There we go.
I like it. A whole new inflection on it. That was pretty awesome.
So we're going to keep this really short as far as the new equipment. There's definitely a different sound. So if you happen to notice, hey.
Yeah, I hope so.
Coming up in the world, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we said. We're always upgrading. I mean, we're trying to be better at what we do. So, we also have to eventually upgrade the equipment as well. And yeah, we're getting there, bro.
So we'll leave it short and sweet because we took up too much time in the green room about that. But
oh yeah, when we were warming up, yeah, pretty much that was the heart of the conversation. But it's good, because I don't know, we had to get it out.
Yeah,
but I mean that's what happens. We get onto a topic sometimes and it goes, and then other times it's just like constantly just keeps morphing and mutating and. But that's hey, so first time listeners, that's what happens here. We got a 30-year friendship. We just talk about stuff.
Train of thought,
stuff just crazy sometimes. That's the way it goes.
It is whatever it is.
It is. It do what it do, baby.
That's why we say it do what it do.
Yeah, but that's I think that's the beautiful thing about what we're always trying to do is that organic conversation that just comes out of nowhere.
Well, I'm tired of scripted stuff. I'm tired, not scripted stuff. I mean, scripted stuff, written, very well written, awesome. Movies, shows, whatever. There's certain things that just, but I'm talking about the reality stuff that's clearly scripted. That I'm just
like the MTV Real World stuff.
I mean, there's a certain fakeness to a lot of the. I mean, even when you come down to like the news media, it's just.
Oh, well, everybody has their bias. I mean, we have our bias, but ours is like being positive and respectful.
Yeah, for the most part, it's about positivity.
For the most part, what do you mean? It's always about positivity. That's what we do here.
Where there's moments where you have to delve in,
We still do it for a positive reason. Like we're still trying to.
Yeah. Well. Let's not label things.
Let's not label.
Let's just let it be what it is.
I mean, but if people were to ask us what we do, that's what I'd say we do is, all positive. Like at least my perspective, because that's what I'm always trying to do is, the Mahatma Gandhi thing, where instead of it being anti-war, I'm all about pro-peace. It's the same idea. It's just one said with two negatives, and
you do that.
And then you got to come in with the jokes, and but
hey, that's do.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
I did it very well.
I did do.
Yeah, I guess you should probably, I feel like normally you would pre-warn, like you did the whole, we're going to talk about the fact that we have like new mics and stuff, but usually when, you're in this kind of a state, you do like. So
I've been blasted by a single liquid swords.
No, it was the tangerine.
Tangerine.
Which now, tangerine for the tangent man.
There we go.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen, so.
Completely. So, really loving the new equipment, but moving on. Yeah. I'm not going to give an apology because I think it's a wonderful thing we got going. No matter however it comes out, it's about the fact that it's two old friends just having a conversation, whether it goes deep or whether it gets silly. I mean, we're just going to let it be what it is. So I think that alone is a beautiful thing, and I'm not going to apologize for whatever state of mind I may be in due to the swords, which clearly have chopped my head off.
I don't even know how to respond to this. I have no reaction. I can neither confirm nor deny at this point in time.
Because that's what the woo, the woo chopping heads. We be chopping heads. It ain't safe no more, son.
We're gonna go right back to the Wu-Tang again. Why not? Right?
Hells yeah. All right. Shout out. Done with that. Done with that. We did it.
I don't even get a chance to rebuttal. Like,
oh no, go on.
Well, you ruined it. I don't even have it anymore. you took it away from me. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
All right, back it up.
No, there is no rewind. There's no taking it back. We don't get to do that here. This is all live content, man. We do it in one shot, one take. No edits, no buffers.
All I need is one mic. Well, actually, we need two. One each.
Yeah, we do.
That was good.
As well as a few more. We're getting there because, we've had, at this point, we've done like some guests and stuff. So we're trying to get more and, better equipment allows for that. And
I mean, I'd be really interested in getting, whether it's, somebody in your circle or somebody in my, because we're not necessarily in the same, so it's whatever. That
was great.
Somebody that we could either call, that we could call into the show during an episode recording, during a live show, to have somebody on as a guest. And that's what I love. I keep thinking about this and I keep wanting to bring this. I mean, we've had a friend of ours come on, but it hasn't been like a real,
Oh, no, I thought it was real.
Because I like that idea that we bring to it, that it's like, I'm not here to have an interview. I want to have a conversation. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you could be an auto mechanic and we could be sitting here talking about particle physics.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to necessarily correlate. It's a bunch of people having a conversation. That's it.
Well, I always took it to like that Joe Rogan thing where I remember the one guy was trying to have a conversation with Jordan Peterson about Hitler or whatever and like the Nazi regime and all that kind of stuff. And they wind up having like a 3-hour conversation and only the last 10 minutes is actually the first conversation that initially tried to bring them all together. So while you come in with this intention of doing this one thing, all of a sudden this whole other thing happens.
Did you bring that up when I was talking about that terrible interview? Remember? I think you brought that up.
So.
I was talking about this terrible interview that I saw, and it doesn't really matter, but I still can't remember who it was that the interview was. It was during the whole Jordan Peterson, like digging into all that stuff. I know that I saw it, but it wasn't JP. It was definitely somebody else, but that it was a complete train wreck and that the guy asking questions would just try to keep moving on to the next question, just instead of just kind of letting the conversation flow the way it should naturally. And I remember you brought up that reference right at that point. So
I'm pretty sure it was a part of that conversation because, I mean, one of the things that I always draw from is, like you were saying, I want it to be a conversation. This is not an interview.
Yeah.
If it comes across as an interview, I think we've done a disservice in a sense. Like,
well, I mean, I would still, and that's the thing. Like, it's not that I wouldn't ask questions, but I'd ask questions just because of my just general curiosity. It's not like I'm going to have a certain agenda when I come into the conversation. Like, I might jot down a couple of things, but as we've already discussed in past, a lot of times I don't even get to the things I jot down because we try to keep
almost
it
almost never.
Well, because you've kind of convinced me that it's anti what we're trying to do. So
a little
bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to keep me in the now.
Well, and I think when you made that point about, we could have somebody on who's an auto mechanic and all of a sudden we're talking about particle physics. Like, I think that's really
just
a thing.
As an example. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, if you were talking to a person that's just an auto mechanic, not like, like literally that's their only thing.
Talking to a particle physicist about auto mechanics. Who knows?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's wherever the conversation goes. I mean, we always joke that you would do what it do, but, it do.
It do.
That's how we roll.
It just do.
Yeah. You have to. I mean.
Well, there's a person behind that, I mean, not everybody speaks to their or from their career, and in a lot of cases. There's a lot more depth to most people in the world if you took the time to notice. How many times did somebody just see you for what you are on the outside and never? I mean, I remember hearing about after I made friends with people that I made friends with growing up that you know, one of them said, like, I always looked angry and unapproachable when they saw me in the hallway in like junior high school. And I was like, that's so funny because I was just, you know, I was just struggling to survive. You know, I wasn't even thinking about, you know,
struggling to survive
said that
in junior high.
I was mean mugging or something like that. I don't know.
What do they call it now? Resting bitch face?
I just thought that was so funny because,
RBF.
you know, like you don't see what you look like on the outside. Like, I mean, I don't know if you do. That's pretty cool, I guess. But
that's a very transcendent thing, I think. I'm down for that. We can do it.
To be able to see yourself from a third party perspective.
Yeah, instead of just like speaking of yourself in third person.
Which I may have done, but I just don't. It's been wiped from my memory, I think. I don't know. Because I've already had an out of body experience. I know this, but.
I know this. Yeah, 66 times in the head.
But there was a lot of scrambled eggs. There was a lot of. This is your brain on macadam.
This is your brain on concussion.
Yeah, not fun stuff.
No, it wasn't, dude.
No. And you know, honestly, I still, my buddy that was involved in that. I mean, we don't need names here, but
because I was actually thinking about this the other day.
To this day, like he still feels responsible for that, and it just makes me feel horrible because I kind of remember I wasn't there. Like the suffering was after the fact, just getting back to reality and like kind of relearning my body. I mean, because there was some of that. I kind of had to, in a way, learn how to walk again.
But you needed like rehabilitative.
I needed PT,
physical therapy, right?
I needed PT and like a lot of like real
rehabilitative. There you go, rehabilitative therapy. Oh, I did it. Sorry,
but not as bad as you might think. But it was mostly due to the fact that I mean I was comatose for I think about a week and a half, pretty much. And I think just after a while, your muscles just kind of. It doesn't take very long at all.
Atrophy.
They start to atrophy. So some of it was just that, but some of it was in a very strange way. Actually, like you can almost feel it happening, but reprogramming.
Yeah, reconnecting the dots and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was kind of a disconnect between the distance from my brain to my extremities. My arms were better. I think that's probably more natural. I don't know if that's because it's a shorter nerve. I don't know.
Maybe it was all in your head.
No, it was all in my head. That's the funny thing about life, isn't it?
Yeah, well.
So,
but yeah, I was actually thinking about that incident, like how it went down and like the way it was. I mean, the way it was
weird because it was such a. I mean, now after recreating. And I think we've talked about this before personally, like a long time before we even started recording ourselves. But I actually had to reconstruct a certain amount of what had happened even weeks prior to the accident because it had kind of wiped a whole bunch of stuff or blurred a bunch of memories.
Well, yeah, because you had just gone water skiing for the first time.
Right before.
With me and my dad.
It was what, a week or two before that?
No, I think it was the day before.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's still like really foggy.
Yeah, because it was summertime. We had just gotten back from the lake because we would do the lake once a week or once for a week for every summer. Just take the ski boat and just go out and enjoy ourselves. And yeah, I remember. Yeah, I brought you up. You only came up for like 2 or 3 days. It was like the rest of the weekend or whatever, and we had done it on.
All I did I held on to the bar and I drank some water at about 30 knots.
Like you got up once, like you were up. You're like I'm up, and then you were done. You're just like
no, it was like less than a second.
Yeah, it was like the third or fourth attempt, and at that point, yeah, you'd been so beaten up. You're like I'm done. I did it. We're like good. It's cool. Come on,
it's cool. But save it for next time.
Well, yeah, because at that point
there was never another next. And the boat's gone now, right? I mean,
oh yeah, I sold it to a buddy of mine.
You sold it?
Yeah, because my dad gave it to me because he was like no longer. He wasn't dealing with it, so I took it off his hands. And
you had to get some kind of jet fuel for that thing, didn't you?
I mean, when we would go up to the lake, there was
like
race
116 octane.
Like, I think it was 103 or something.
I'm
102. It was just, I think it was just over 100. I don't know. It
was over 100. I know that.
Yeah, I think it was like 102 or 103, something like that. It was weird. Because, I mean, you're going back a ways now, but yeah, no, I remember that day really well because it was after everybody tried and nobody could get up. And my dad was just like, he'd already been skiing all week. Finally, he just looked at me. He's like, show everybody how to do this. And I was like, all right, fine. Well, so then I did the doubles and I hated it because I was always more like the single skier. And that was the first time I ever used his ski, which was a full mahogany.
I thought your dad was pretty kick butt too, if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah. He was just tired at that point because we'd been skiing all week.
Right, but I mean, he would do the single, or he'd do the doubles and then drop one and just kind of do the.
Oh yeah, that was his. He would do
the flamingo
because he was getting older. So for him to get up on two was easier. Right, so yeah, we would do like the cove and just like let the thing drift off to the side. And after he got done, we just kind of come running back and grab it.
Because in a way, it's easier, but I've just never been a skis kind of guy. I always did better with snowboard.
It just beats up my knees. Same thing with snowboarding, especially on the East Coast where we're at, because it's like you get a lot of ice instead of snow. So the ice would always beat my knees up. So I get a couple runs in and I was just wiped. So
anyway, we were talking about reconstructing memory.
I know.
We were talking about reconstructing memory and learning how to walk again and out of body experience. And it's still funny just to tie that back in and we can finish off and whatever, go in another direction. But it's just, it's so weird because I can still recall kind of just coming back to my body like I was away for a very long time. And I was comfortable. Wherever I was very comfortable. And coming back was a really weird. Like, I don't recall anything about when I was away. Like, some people say I went to a bright light or I did this or that. And I don't know, some of that I think is a little bit of Hollywood, but...
Come to the light, Caroline.
It wasn't... It was more like a complete sense of contentment. And it was the weirdest thing because I remember one of the first thoughts I had when I came back as like... my father's voice is kind of drifting in and out, like slowly coming into the forefront of my attention. I could hear it there, but it was kind of in the background. And I remember one of the first thoughts I had as I was starting to come to was just, why am I here again? Like, it was the weirdest experience. Like, and I like here, not as a place, but as my physical body.
Yeah, no, I know what you, I get that.
Well, I mean, just for anyone else out there, but it was this very, very strange, like, oh, like how do you, like, I don't know how to express it. It was just a really, I mean, not that it was, I mean, it sounds negative, I guess, right? It sounds negative for anybody maybe that cares for me, but it was a weird experience. It was, wherever I was, it was a very contented state. And I came back going, I wasn't done. I thought we were, like, I had this feeling like, well, why am I back here again? It's like, I don't know why. That was the only lingering feeling I had when I kind of came back to consciousness. And the first thing after that I remember was the strong smell of bleach. Just waking up in a hospital around, white sheets and boop, 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 stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't know. I've never woken up like that. So that's
I mean, that's, if I could paint the word picture, that's really what it, I mean, and coming back, it was like a whiteness, and then slowly like the face of my dad in front of me slowly came into focus again. Cause for a week and a half, I hadn't opened my eyes. I was completely in my head. Or out of it, for that matter.
Why do my eyes hurt so much? Because you've never used them before. Yes. Just rest. Yes. All will be explained in time.
And that was the first day of the rest of my life. No, that was... every day is the first day of the rest of your life.
Well, this is kind of true. I mean, that is a truth fact.
Right, which means every day you get a new chance, a new opportunity.
Dude, absolutely, bro.
right?
And see, that's the positivity I talk about. Like, that's what we do here.
So anyway, not to hog the conversation, but wherever that mentally takes you. But that was it's one thing, and I may have mentioned it before in conversation, but it definitely sticks with you, something like that. I mean, I remember after that, like in the months after that, coming back to life, having to go back and finish my senior year of high school, and how that experience kind of shaped who I am as an individual, to the point now where I'm like, I can't imagine not going through that. It's such a weird thing, but
well, yeah, because I've made that statement before, where if what you did, if what your past experiences were brought you to where you're at, and you're grateful and appreciative of it, then whether it was a bad thing then has nothing to do with the fact that it's a good thing now. And I always just try to look at those things as good because of that.
I mean, not that I ever really considered myself to be on a high horse at all, but I mean, something like that is very humbling.
I can imagine.
And I've had a couple. I mean, and everybody has their own whatever humbling situation, but mine happened to be life-threatening on more than one occasion.
66 times.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know. We make light of it.
Fun ride, and I guess some people might look at that and go, "Wow, I'm amazed that you can even stand and talk." But yet again, the amazement of the human body and what it can accomplish, and how
what they say, mind over matter, right?
How the human brain can reroute. I mean, even just the physical, I mean, I think the mind has a lot to do with it. Absolutely, the spiritual mind. Your essence, but
Well, so there's been a in psychology there was a case study where someone had taken a metal rod to, I believe, the frontal lobe.
What was his name?
Yes. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but how it basically took out a section of the brain where it shouldn't have the ability, the person shouldn't have been able to speak or things of that nature.
I'm going to kick myself when I look this up. And in
actuality, it was able to create new neural pathways to reform using sections of the brain that technically didn't do that function.
But he wasn't the same person after that.
His personality was off from where he was, but yeah. This is why we need a fact checker, so we can get someone to look this stuff up. And with the new equipment, I mean, we've talked about that.
I knew there was a Gage in there. Phineas Gage. I almost said Cage, but
Johnny Cage, finish him. Sorry.
Phineas Gage. So that I guess the story was they would use a tamping rod for something on the railroad. He was using explosives basically, and the thing somehow sparked, and the whole rod went right through. I think it was underneath his jaw on one side, and then right through the top of his head. And I can't remember if it passed right through or if he actually had to pull. I don't know. Wow, it's just. But never stopped breathing. Was talking the entire time, able to carry on a conversation. My name is this. I am here. He was very cognizant.
Dude, I just got the scene in Old School when he shoots himself in the neck with a dart gun. You're crazy. You're crazy. Wait. What dart? In your neck. There's a dart in your neck. You're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy.
Still study Phineas Gage as a case study to this day, and open up his file, because it's just, it's fascinating to see how he was able to carry on, and he was still a person with a personality, but it changed him. That he was, I think he started out very laid back. I mean, relatively, and he was very nice and outgoing. But he became, I think, short of temper after that. I may have this completely wrong. If anybody wants to write in, please. But that's what I remember hearing, because we don't look everything up, because it would just take attention away from the microphone. But
again, that's why we need a fact checker.
What I recall about his story was that his just general mood, his resting bitch face, changed after that, or he became resting. I don't know.
Yeah, well.
But that's a wild. I love that story.
Yeah, well, just like you were saying, with your own personal.
I don't believe he ever lost consciousness, or if he did, it was only for like a second or two,
I don't know.
from the stun of it. But blah.
My bigger point was the fact that there was rejuvenation of neural pathways, like additional, where again, the brain, there was a part of the brain that was doing functions that should not be, but it needed to. So it used that part. It like rewired itself.
But it did something, but it had to do with where it went through. And I think it was part of the frontal lobe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if anybody doesn't know anything about that, about the brain, I mean, I know, geez, the internet's very good at teaching people all sorts of things. So I don't want to make any assumptions, but the frontal lobe is kind of where your consciousness really lies. Your kind of what makes you you. It's the rational. Well, it depends on what hemisphere, I guess. So I can't remember which side. I'll have to look into that again. Not while we're on the show.
There must be something wrong with his abdulum.
Phineas Gage, if nobody's ever heard that story, check that out. That's weird. That's a really interesting, really wild story. So the guy really never lost consciousness, continued moving. They wrapped his head, bandages and everything after that. But
and didn't he lose his eye or like the use of his eye or something?
Yeah. I think one eye was gone after that. But yeah, he was, I think he was a worksite foreman. I think that was his title before that. And I think after that too. But that's where people had mentioned, people that worked with him and stuff, said that his mood, his general attitude was different. But just the fact that somebody can continue on, like, dude, you had a spike through dude, you need to take a little time off. I'm just saying, do
you smell muffins? I smell muffins.
That's what you would expect, right? And then like stumble, fall over. Like that's what you would expect. But no, this guy kept going. Like,
well, he couldn't fall over because the pole would have like kept him up.
the freaking Energizer Bunny. Like how does that happen? The brain is just wild. I don't know.
Like, bro, you got a little something in your face right there. Yeah, no, the other side. Oh, but yeah, the idea of how capable the brain is. Oh, sorry, I almost sneezed. Oh,
I bring passion with the action. My pen right. It's like the flash between axon and dendrite.
Great, you get the swords in you and you got to get all Wu-Tangy.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, no, dude, it's gonna kill me.
Just look up at the light.
I don't. The light's over there.
Look over at the light.
I do. No, this is not helpful.
All right. Just sneeze already. Just not on the
we're
mic.
good. I think we're good. I don't know. It's just going to come out. It'll happen.
It will. Just make sure you turn your head. Because I don't want
this from you, really?
A burp
the
is
equipment
different.
issue. Oh, please, you cough, sneezed, burp. Everything that you're not supposed to do on mic, you do, and everything you're supposed to do on mic, you don't. Just saying, your consistency is so backwards.
That is true. We've broken all the rules of like radio
what's this
etiquette.
we shit? No, you.
Okay. You take no ownership. That's all.
Well,
good.
no, because you do it and I don't. That's how it works. I am perfect, and everyone is aware of this.
I sense an imperfection.
Easy there, Yoda.
No.
No.
An imperfection I sense.
Thank you, swords.
True. It's a truth fact.
It is a truth fact. You're a truth fact. Anyways, where were we at? What were we doing? What's going on here? Oh yeah, so
I was doing my whole
But I think that's a great thing though, because again, what
is the mind?
Well, I put it with that idea that our physical bodies, our avatars or whatever, our brain, all that kind of stuff, it really is just like a giant computer in a sense. And our soul is like the I guess the software, data that we put into it to have it operate.
Well, I kind of think of it as like as above, so below. So I mean, if you have an energetic body, let's say, instead of saying spiritual, you have an energetic body, and then you have a physical body that is a reflection of that.
Okay.
So it's a physical reflection of your energetic body.
Yeah, I get that.
But your physical appearance doesn't necessarily equate to who you are. It's so easy to get stuck in that.
Well, yeah, the whole thing, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it must be a duck. Why can't it be a duck-billed platypus?
I mean, okay, here's a good question for you. Is there a time that you can think of where, and I'm, whatever comes to you first, but is there a time you can think of when you assumed something about somebody before actually meeting them that you were kind of totally blown away when you discovered who they really were? Like where you kind of prejudged them just by their visual appearance and then realized, wow, like this is not kind of what I expected.
I would say the majority of my dating life.
All right, all jokes aside though, I mean...
I don't know. I think
is there a specific occurrence that could come to mind? Anything spark in that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, no, so as much as I want to say joke, yeah, no, I would say the generalization of the majority of previous relationships, like, what things that I had to learn from because I had to make those choices.
Oh, that maybe you had preconceptions on what kind of a person they were.
Yeah, and then
then you discovered who they really were.
Well, to me, it goes to that idea. This is why I really don't like the idea of dating. Like, I love couples and being in love, all that good stuff, but the physical act of trying to date, typically, the first 3 months, we're projecting the ideal of what we want to be, but not what we actually are. And so you spend the first 3 months getting to know that person, and then all of a sudden they change because then now they really start to show who they really are because they can't keep up that performance in a sense. And now all of a sudden you have a completely different person.
Well, I mean,
at least that's a very common thing that I've heard, and you know what I mean. And
not to get morbid, but what's the percentage of people that get married that stay together for more than 5 years? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is currently. I'm not
a statistician,
but I don't know if it was over 50% last I heard, or what it is now. But I wonder how much of that is going on. Where I mean, even as an individual, it's kind of hard to pin down what makes you you. I mean, isn't that what we spend our life trying to discover? But
some of us.
There is a lot of that, whether it's peacocking or whatever it is this show that you put on for other people around you.
I'm a peacock captain. I gotta fly.
Because you just want to, I mean, everybody just wants to fit in, right? And you just
to a generalized degree, yeah, I agree.
So how easy is it to kind of, go against what might be more natural to you just because you want to be surrounded by people that, just because you want to be surrounded by people. I mean, it's as simple as that. That maybe you might do things that are outside of your natural, what you'd naturally be attracted or energetically attracted to, whatever. Like that you might stifle certain things or increase other.
Well, and that also, we had that conversation where you basically program your brain. All these things are out there and viable. They're easy for you to grab at, utilize, see, be a part of, any of that. But your mentality or your programming causes your brain to pick out the parts that continue to promote that programming, whether they're good or bad things.
Right, but how easy is it, maybe after years in a relationship, to come to the realization that, holy crap, this isn't the person I thought they were, because you made, like you said, all kinds of assumptions on them when you first met them based on whether it is certain idiosyncrasies that you notice or whatever it is that just makes you link A to B to think, hey, this kind of person believes this, but you never actually heard that from their mouth. You're just making these assumptions.
Right. Well, because that's what they're presenting.
Or that's what you're receiving.
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you're taking what they're projecting and you're making your assumptions, which, this goes back to the 4 agreements. If you're being honest with yourself, then the likelihood is when you're seeing this person project, you're not going to take it personally, and you're also not going to make an assumption from it.
Well, how many times do we make these connections? Like, I'd have to say, like, post hoc. Like, you have a certain assumption about the kind of person you'd want to be with. You have a template. You know what I mean? You meet this other person. You have, and I think we've talked about this before, that people don't make decisions based on logic. I mean, obviously, especially when it comes to relationships, they make decisions based on emotion.
Generally speaking,
they then try to back that up by using logic. And how often is it that maybe somebody gets into a very long-lasting, like a marital relationship with kids and everything else, and maybe then comes to a realization that they're not the person they started out as. Not only that, but the person that they saw themselves with doesn't actually match up to their pattern of who they thought, their template that they've created. They've picked certain points that they think match perfectly to their template, but then ignored all the others.
I think that's a very common thing.
Right? I mean, that we see what we want to see.
Well, that just goes back to the idea of that's, our brain helps us to support the programs and the patterns that we're used to. So it just keeps.
One that we make a decision based on emotions or, I mean, even at a carnal level, based on the way they make us feel in the moment.
Of course.
And then
we're very
come to the realization that person doesn't necessarily coincide with what you would consider a good person later on in your relationship. And then, I wonder if that's where a lot of this comes from, this 50 or 60%.
Well, like you said,
of divorce.
Well, yeah, because like you said, even, we all change, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to change in the same direction. And yeah, if we weren't very congruent in the first place because we weren't being impeccable with ourselves, therefore not impeccable with each other, then there's definitely a great possibility for...
Well, that's the difficulty, isn't it, though? To be honest with someone else when you're still kind of trying to figure out what it is that is you.
Well, that's why I say you have to love yourself before anybody else can love you, or you can love anyone else, because you have to know how to do it. You have to be impeccable, meaning that you have to accept yourself, whether it's considered faults or...
That's the full 4 agreements breakdown of loving yourself.
Well, right? But that's what being impeccable is.
Right.
And part of being impeccable means that you can't take anything personal or make assumptions. You have to be honest and open about it, and you have to be accepting too.
Even if it hurts.
Especially if it hurts.
Right.
That's a good growing moment for sure.
That's deep, man.
That's what I do, bro. That's what I do. That's how I roll. What about this makes you think it doesn't work? I'm just...
Well, you're gesturing at all of you. I don't...
Well, yeah. Plus, it's like my chakras, as they're aligned and
energized.
energized.
Okay,
yeah.
You were pointing at your chakras in particular.
They're all aligned, vibrant.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I work on it. I meditate daily for it.
Are you in the ether right now?
Sometimes.
Is it the ether or the aether? I don't really...
It's both.
It's the ether.
I don't even know what that is. But so, yeah, that's...
I love you, man.
Well, I love you. And that's why I love the 4 agreements. Literally the first time I read that book, it changed my life. Same thing with shortly thereafter, I read The Secret, which changed my life. Like literally, it was after reading that, I actually did what the book said to do as far as kind of reprogramming yourself. Because that's what they talk about is the...
Some people refer to that almost as like modern day witchcraft. Like it's...
Well, so here's the thing:
it's a weird, like superstitious.
In The Answer, which is the follow up to The Secret, they actually explain how to use.
This is all the law of attraction, correct?
Well, that's the main point of it. But The Answer is more about how to utilize it, the law of attraction, and modifying your brain. So after reading The Secret and it being like, oh my gosh, I wound up reading The Answer.
That's more like the applicable, right?
Yeah, how to use the science.
Hits the road, yeah.
And in doing that, from that point on, my life has only gotten better because I literally did what it said to do. And what you're doing is you're you're utilizing your RAC, which is your reticulum activation center.
Right.
It's the part of your brain that creates the new patterns and programs and, literally structures your mind so that it supports what you're going after.
Well, and you're kind of telling yourself to focus on certain patterns so that when they come up, you get an endorphin rush and then you want to repeat that pattern. So it is kind of a well,
it's like cognitive behavioral therapy.
That
you're conditioning yourself.
Self-hypnotism.
Yeah, you're conditioning yourself. Yeah, you're doing positive reinforcement.
Which actually, I believe meditation is also considered self-hypnotism. But.
Well, so in the answer, it's more of it, you're clearing the slate so that when you input this information, your brain perceives it greater because there's less inputs.
I think I've said to you that there seems to be a certain clarity in defining what it is that you desire.
Your why.
Like, and to give that, to fill it out, so to speak, in your mind, to give it a three-dimensional quality and to understand like how it connects with you and why it is that you and narrow down specifically what it is, whether it's in a career move you want to make or, for those of you that haven't found love eternal, if you will, whatever decision it is but define that focus, because sometimes it's so easy to get lost and get frustrated and go, what is it that I want? What is it that I really desire that I'm so upset that I'm not getting? And sometimes just coming to that realization, you may find out that you already have what you need, but finding that focus, like even if it's something material, like what is it exactly? Flesh it out, feel it, look at it, act as if you already have it, and then there it is. And that I think there is definitely something to be said about that, and that it's kind of like flowing, like we were saying before, flowing with a certain frequency or energy level and keeping it there. And that can be like, roll right into your goal setting and all that, where it just kind of naturally, you don't even think about that that's your focus, but you'll end up exactly where you want to be. It's like that mountain. And right, the mountain that you have to traverse so many mountains to get to.
Yeah, to me, that would be if you are actually aligned with your what and why. So it's like, hey, these are the actions I'm going to do, and these are why I'm doing it, because this is, the expected outcome. Whether it's, like you said, focusing on that mountain, whatever the deal is, that becomes that thing where it's like, this is how it works. This is how it goes. And having that ability, like you said, it puts you in that path, so you almost become like aligned with it. So now you've programmed your brain to look for these things, which puts you into this, frequency or, wavelength or mindset, whatever you want to call it. And you're now in that flow. So when all of that stuff aligns, where it's like, hey, this is my why and my what's, and this is the path or whatever that it's supposed to be on, then all of a sudden it just flows. That's when just like everything's there right at your fingertips. You always figure it out. It goes smoothly. Even when it's not going smoothly, it's still going smoothly because you're still figuring it out. You're still moving forward. You're still staying focused. Like,
that's a good point too, that failure's not a permanent state. Right? It's a learning opportunity if you look at it that way. I
now know what it's not.
Exactly. It's the light bulb thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the Thomas Edison light bulb thing. I didn't fail 1,000 times at making a light bulb. I found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah, did not work.
So, I'm not anti-war.
I'm pro-peace. Yeah, man. There's everything right with that.
I like it. I like pound. Bring it
in. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, and that's, that's why, again, after reading the 4 agreements and then going to the secret and then reading the answer and realizing the science behind the spirituality of having faith, and that's, one of my favorite things to say is, it doesn't matter what you think that thing is. If you have the confidence that that's the thing that's going to get you to what you want, then you should probably do it. Obviously, if it doesn't make it a good thing for you and other people around you, so if it's detracting from your life or other people's lives, then it's probably not the right choice. But maybe it is for that moment because you have to learn it and you got to get through it and experience it. And, I'm the first person to believe that your thing is always going to be different than mine. Like, while we're all alike, we're completely different. We're all a bunch of snowflakes. Like, snowflakes are still a snowflake, but it's its own thing. So,
on a snowflake.
Well, yeah,
Why's it got to be white?
even the light is white. But that's the thing. So yeah, like, while we're all freaking snowflakes, meaning that we're all the same
Ain't
thing.
no damn snowflake.
we're not, because we're all different. None of us can be the same.
Right.
So to me, that's like one of the human dichotomies, is like, we're all the same but completely different.
But that's
It's a good thing, I think. There's everything right with that.
it would suck if everybody was exactly the same.
Yeah, you'd be like Vulcan.
You'd have nothing to say. Everybody would be on the same frame of mind and, have the same thoughts in there. Like, I don't want to live there. Right? I mean, I suppose if it's a happy place, I don't know.
Well, that goes to the conversation of, if you don't have a yin and a yang, then how do you know if it's a happy place? If everything is the same, there is no difference. You're just null. You're at a baseline. You're zero. You're just.
Well, see, there's a hard thing with the word happy, though.
What's your definition of happy?
Well, I mean, happy is a fleeting thing. Happy is some kind of contentment within the five senses. That it's a very temporary.
Well, why can't it be your point of reference for everything? Like, to make.
Well, I mean, trying to understand the joy of perfect balance, right? That's the 0 point, right? That's the stillness, where you're neither happy nor sad. You're just. That's why I say something different about joy. That you can. There's a part of me that goes through life experiencing, on the surface, experiencing all the troubles and difficulties of life. And there's another part of me in the background that it just enjoys the ride. That it's all just experience, right? I try as much as I can to tap into that part as I can. The part that can just view it as experience.
Well, see, this is why I really enjoy a lot of like what Alan Watts talks about. As far as what consciousness is and reality and being a part of it, and what perception is, as far as implicating whether or not this is a true experience. Because he speaks very much on the conscious level.
And for those that don't know, Alan Watts was a guy that was raised basically in the Catholic Church. And at some point, at a fairly young age, I want to say like 17, 18 years old, decided to check out the Eastern. And went, I'm trying to think, what's the Japanese, that he went to Japan and learned more of the Eastern traditions and stuff. And
the Eastern philosophies.
Eastern philosophies that all, I think,
very
like I
much
said,
spiritually based.
In a way, and all kind of branched out of like India. I think originally.
Well, yeah, that's where you're getting like Buddhism, Hinduism,
right?
And then you start getting into the Taoism.
So that was Taoism, I think the Japanese, he even said, after all the stuff and all the people that praised him, he's like, look, I'm a court jester. Like, I'm just here to goof off and have fun and burn as bright as I can, and I'm enjoying life. Don't take me too seriously. Don't take life too seriously. So it was interesting that you got both sides of that. He was like, I'm God just playing this ridiculous role called Alan Watts. And I think that was a beautiful way of stating that. That
to me, he's always the thing that I agreed with him in his attempt to understand or represent what consciousness really is in comparison to reality is the correlation of what we're perceiving, like what our brains are showing us is a neurological experience, meaning that no matter how much we want to believe that everything that's in front of us that we're seeing and smelling and tasting and touching and like all these things, that's still our brain interpreting information. Meaning that
It's the whole Matrix. I mean, yeah,
right.
it's the whole Matrix thing.
Well, perception makes it real. So because we're built into this belief system that what we're doing, tasting, touching, smelling, seeing, all these things makes it physical and real, we have a confidence, built in this belief system that it has real structure. When in actuality, we know that they're just molecules vibrating together to create these supposed
it's just
structures.
It's a creepy thought, because that could be our reality right now, and we'd never know any different. Because it's just an experience within the five senses, which are all just frequencies that are being picked up by our brain.
Yeah, they're just sensors interpreting information and then projecting.
So who's to say we're not plugged in?
Well, that's why I love the Elon Musk thing, where he's like, there's a 1 in 8 billion chance that this isn't a simulation. It's like, well, that's another way to think about it.
I mean, define simulation.
Well, because you were talking about
spiritually, that's what I would say exactly what it is. It's a test. And people say, well, when's the test over? When you friggin' get it. When we all get it. Right? I mean, when we're all woke.
Well, it's like the philosophical thing of like, there's a chair in the room, explain why it's not there or something like that. And, instead of sitting there making paragraph after paragraph to express what the room is and the dynamics and all these things, you're just like, what chair?
There is no room.
And then you just like walk, you're just like, and we're good. Like, mic drop, and I'm out.
But for real, I mean, it's weird when you think about it that way. That everything you consider as reality, everything you consider as this body, is all being perceived as electrical impulses within the brain. It's what is real.
Well, and to me, that's another part of the Alan Watts thing is he takes it from, all right, so this is your bias, meaning that you are now projecting, utilizing the information at your disposal. So all the stuff that's coming into your body being modified by your programming or your perception, you may be living very much in your very own realm where these things are transpiring because you're literally projecting them and you're causing them to occur around you. It's almost like with like a holodeck kind of a thing, but for every single one of us. And then some of them intertwine. Even though they're intertwining, we think of them as like, you said this or did that, when in actuality, you think you did this or said that. That's completely opposite. And it's because that's your perception and my perception as the two of them intertwine.
Yeah, I'm having this other thought that this right now. Sorry, that have you ever had a moment where, because of something, like I had something physical happen to me where I probably should have been, and I guess you could say I was in a form of shock, because that's exactly, that would be what happened on the biochemical level. But I had an experience where I had an injury that it affected me, in my lower leg. And I had a moment, and I forget what it's referred to, the word they use in Eastern, like in Indian philosophy. But everything took on like a golden hue, and I saw the beauty of the moment, and it was this crazy wild endorphin rush. And I'd be lucky to be able to repeat that with hallucinogenics. It was an amazing experience. Lasted maybe 5 minutes in total. But it was this weird thing where there was an awareness coupled with a complete sense of separation from my body.
So you speaking about this takes me back to one of my tattoos that I was getting, where the few times I've had tattoos done where it actually hurt, because I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So I was in the middle of having one, and I started to go to my happy place, where you just kind of like zone out, go to this thing where your brain separates. And instantly, as I was
still feel everything, but it's
gone. Like, it's just, I'm in a whole nother world. So while your body is still perceiving this information, I'm choosing to ignore it. Well, as I'm attempting to do this, Fight Club like pops into my head. Well, very, very much so. The scene where he gives himself the chemical burn.
Right.
And he's like, no, I'm going to go to my happy place. And he's like, don't do this. He's like, this is your pain. You need to feel it. You need to go through this. This is a moment. This is an experience. Like, you have to be able to just take this. You have to understand that this is just perception. So no matter how painful it is, you still have to just see it as, so that's what you're saying is like, you have to be a part of that moment. So you're feeling it, you're being aware of it, but at the same time, you're still removing yourself and seeing it for what it is. And I actually did that a couple of times.
I want to thank you for bringing it back to that, because there is something about, and I recall that I was trying to put my words to it, kind of what happened right before I went into this euphoric state, holding a large smiley face wound on my leg after running my leg over a bike sprocket.
Yeah, no, dude, that was gnarly.
That it was a moment of acceptance. You know, what is. And it was just a weird moment of acceptance where I was just like, and here I am, you know? And like I said, it was what transpired for the next 5 minutes after that was this very surreal feeling of super connectivity to everything, and just everything visually that I saw looked like it was covered in gold glitter, basically. Like it was just glowing, like almost with a light of its own. Plants, animals, trees, like everything I saw.
Kind of like the Celestine prophecies, where like
I think there is a reference to that in there. Yeah,
where like you can start to see the aura of everything.
In a way,
yeah.
Are we?
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
we're of course we're getting really into it. So of course we're
in.
Yeah, of course we're pretty much getting at that point. So,
but yeah, there was a different. What I wanted to say, I'm trying to put that into words, but there was an acceptance of everything at that moment, where it was just like, it was kind of what, actually, I think it was in an, it figures moment.
You just kind of look to the heavens, you're like, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, and it's like, it figures. As I'm holding like I had a towel with me in my backpack, and I just happened to, because it was the summertime, right? Going to pools and stuff like that. But I had a towel in my backpack, and as I'm holding it, putting pressure on my leg, I just remember that thought and just the feeling of acceptance, and then that whole experience washed over me. But yeah.
That's
a weird, like a super sensitivity to everything around you, but then a disconnected feeling from your own physical body.
Yeah. No, that's why I was like, when you were talking about that, that's the tattoo came to my mind, because that was my experience on it. But yeah, I don't know. Let's
like you're floating. If you could even imagine having a body to float with.
Well, so that's we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. We got you all involved. Yeah, you're great. Thanks. We're gonna go
talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, talk to us. Send us an email.
Yeah, I'm telling you at directionsandmusic.org. That's IMTELLINYOU at directionsandmusic.org.
Beep boop boop bop boop.
We love you all. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself.
You always forget. This is I'm telling you, and Philly D,
Mr. Gemini.
Yeah, we appreciate you stopping by. We want you to communicate. This is what we do. We do love you. We appreciate you all for stopping by and checking us out, and we're gonna keep this rolling. And we thank you for everything that you do for us. And that's why I was like, hey, be good to yourself, be good to everyone else. That's like being impeccable. So be good to yourself and everyone else, man. We love you. Peace.